Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Pranic Healing Podcast. On this episode, we have Jeffrey Noble. Jeff is one of the most accomplished healers in the New York City area. He has received the White House Lifetime Achievement Award, signed by President Joe Biden himself, for his volunteer service in transforming the lives and training others to do so over the past 3 decades. Jeffrey started his journey in 1988, where he studied NLP, and he is part of the Society of Neuro-Linguistic Programming. He also began his pranic healing journey in 1994 under Master Choa Koksui. Currently, Jeffrey runs his center, which is a nonprofit organization that serves the community in Brooklyn and beyond in the New York City area. Please welcome Jeffrey Noble.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste, Jeff. So thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. Just to give a little highlight to everyone, we just had the New Jersey Arhatic Yoga Retreat, and that's where I was kind of led to Jeff, and I think something spoke out to me to invite Jeff onto the podcast. And I was kind of amazed when he sent me his bio with his accomplishments, because it's truly in rarefied air to receive that White House Lifetime Achievement Award. Nonetheless, before we begin, just for the audience, Jeff, you can talk a little bit about yourself, a couple of personal details. I know I gave you your personal introduction, but just for people to relate to you.
Well, I'm one of those people who was least likely to succeed in class clown growing up. Believe it or not, I was really a mess. And, being born and raised in Harlem, it was a very challenging time to get through those 70s and 60s. But I set a goal back then to not be addicted, to make sure that I did things to make sure that I was an example of possibility for people. So I've been on the path of things for a long time. Mm-hmm. I was in the process of thinking, grow rich, the magic thinking big, Mandingo's book. I read all the personal development books looking for that something that I knew was inside me. I'm that person that there's a sax. I'm gonna say this real quick. There's a saxophone player that I know who played the sax really well, but he never got an opportunity to play it. And his father was a saxophone player also. His father passed and left him his saxophone. This guy, Jason, had the opportunity to play in the biggest event in his life. He practiced 300 hours for this one event, and he when we got backstage, he realized he brought the wrong saxophone with him. Not the one he practiced with, but the one that, he brought himself. Not the one his father gave him to practice with, the one he brought himself. And he realized at that moment he had no choice but to go out and play. That night he played more beautiful music, he layered notes better than he ever layered notes before, held notes. His fingers were moving like grease lightning almost. Mm-hmm. And at the end, we asked him, well, what happened tonight? You played better than you ever played before. And he said that, all this time the music was in the sax. But what I learned tonight is the music inside me. So I've been on this journey, Doctor, to find this music inside me so I can share my music with the world. And that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years.
Beautiful. Well, that's music of the soul right there. Am I right, Jeff? So from so-called class clown to receiving the, Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award from, Joe Biden, I think that just speaks to itself, the level of, journey that you've been on, and to get from, where you started to now. I think that's amazing. So I'm going to take this time to kind of start with your journey in pranic healing, because I think it's a very interesting journey. And even before that, I think that you mentioned you had a experience in India, correct? More of a spiritual experience. So for the audience out there, please just describe, in detail, what was that experience, and how did it kind of transform your life?
Well, I went to India on a spiritual journey, basically, and then to make a long story short, I was in bed one morning at 4 o'clock, and I woke up 4 o'clock a.m. I couldn't go back to sleep. And all of my people in New York have been trying to reach me to say hello, how you doing during this journey, but no one can reach me that night. And something told me to wake up and burn the incense, so I burned the incense. At that moment, I burned sandalwood, to be exact. At that moment, it's like the spirit came to me and told me that it wanted me to stop doing everything I was doing and dedicate my life full time to doing healing work. Now, Doc, you don't know this, but at the time I was earning mid six figures. And I had to come back to New York and walk away from $16 million and not in income, don't get me wrong, but
Right.
loans that I had that I would have been paid on. And I came back on a Tuesday and I quit on a Friday. And that was in 2010, and that's when I started doing this full time. So that trip to India taught me a lot of things that scared the heck out of me because I was fighting it. I want those people who made a lot of money in corporate, but I was always doing pranic healing on the side, or NLP on the side. I wasn't charging for it. I was doing free because I needed the money. But then when this happened, all of a sudden I needed the money. And in my committing to what I was told to do, I lost everything, basically. You know, I almost lost my home. I got a divorce. It's like I hit rock bottom because I refused to go back and take job offers, which I know that God had spoken to me and told me to dedicate my life to healing. And it was a struggle at first because when you leave cold turkey like that, you know, it's I didn't wean myself off. I just came back Tuesday, quit on Friday, and then had to find out now how do I make money doing pranic healing? All the people I helped over the last 15 years that was free, because I had already conditioned them that I'm doing it for them free, they didn't want to pay me to do healing with them. So in that's how I almost lost my house and everything else because I didn't have any money coming in. Just living off my savings for 2 years almost. And then finally I started turning around, getting new clients, going out speaking more and more, going to health fairs, talking about pranic healing, talking about what I do to professionals. And I had some doctors referring me clients. After a while, I just picked up to, you know, now we have our own center. And it's the first center in New York City since 1993.
Yes.
It's been a long time since we had a center in New York City.
Wow. So that's a very powerful journey that you made, and I think that takes, you know, courage to say the least to jump from where you were at, you know, saying mid six figures to cold turkey, having nothing, and really taking a leap of faith into this spiritual calling and a message from God. And you know, I you know, definitely the audience and I commend you for that because that's such a you know, inspirational story to hear, right? We hear about all stories of people, you know, working their regular corporate jobs and searching for spiritual meaning and purpose, but not a lot of people take that transition, that leap of faith like you did. And, you know, it's hard, right?
And one thing that the Spirit of God said to me was that I've put you in front of the greatest teachers in the world. One was Master Choa, of course, and the other one was my NLP teacher named Richard Bandler. And between those two, you have everything you need to go out and make a difference. To go out there and bring more light into the world. To go out there and, you know, become coded and loaded with all these gifts. But a lot of people don't get to use them because their gifts are buried with them. And I just knew that I didn't want to leave my job. And I was tested. And, you know, when I came back, doctor, I had no hair on my body at all. Part of my purification during this time was I had to cut off every ounce of hair on my body. My eyebrows were gone. I had hair then too. My hair was gone. Hair on my chest was gone. Every single piece of hair on my body was shaved off because I was reborn.
Wow.
And that was part of the message. I mean, even I'm gonna be honest with you. In every place that the hair was cut from, there was a message with it. This the hair that's under my arm. The hardest one, I don't know what I can say, so you just tell me if this is not cool.
You can talk about it.
The hardest part was the private area. Because, you know, most people who cut down that area, you start scratching after a while. So it was very clear I could not scratch. I could not itch. It was very clear to me I had better not itch. Because there's a lot of times in my transformation that I'm going to be tempted to do something to take me back to the old road that I was on, just making money and doing that on the side. So that was like, you cannot scratch anything that itches at all, especially that area. And so I didn't. And I had got offers for $80,000, just like a signing bonus to come on. I was in the mortgage business. They would pay me $80,000 just to sign on, say I will work for your company. And it was at the time, and I had almost lost my house. And,
wow.
it was really hard to take that money. It was really, really hard to take that money.
Wow. So, I mean, that's incredible. I think what they say also in, Buddhism, like every hair, like you said, there was like a message. Every hair is like also like a sin too, if I am correct.
A
Like,
sin?
yeah, I think in Buddhism, in hair, that's why they're mostly bald not. I think it's not really direct translation of sin, but attachment. Attachment is
Okay,
what it
okay,
is.
okay.
With translation, but attachment to the physical world, in the physical body. So, and that relates to your purification part of how I'm seeing it too, is just
Right.
that
I love it.
attachment to the old self and the old you and the things
Definitely.
that you had to purify. So on your story, I mean, so you're about on the verge of losing your home and, all these difficult challenges. How did you get through it? I know you said you worked with people in the past 15 years, and did they help you, or what else happened?
No, they did not help me at all.
Okay.
There was no hope at all. There was a woman that worked in the bank. I forgot her last name now, but I think it was Angela. And for some strange reason, because God was involved, she kept
Hmm.
my mortgage payment kind of hidden when he was reviewing for about two or
Wow.
3 years.
Really?
Some kind of way, she just made sure that my home wasn't taken from me for about 2 or 3 years. I was calling my angel. I don't know how I was able to go 2 and 3 years, be behind mortgage, and then not take my place. That was in the very beginning.
Wow. That's a blessing and an angel right there.
Yeah.
So that was the mortgage part that was taken care of for that meantime. What was also like the other challenges you had to, overcome? Like what else did you have to do? Was it the people, the relationships? Because I know you started your center at the same time, right? Because this was 2000.
No, center, I started just in the last, we started center in November. So I
Okay.
didn't have the center all that time, no.
Oh, okay, okay. But this was around 2010, right?
2010, I was working in
Okay.
churches. I was
Okay.
trying to convince churches that they needed a healing ministry. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't want to get religious here, but they say they follow Jesus Christ, but there's no healing ministry. So how are you following Jesus with no healing ministry? So I was challenging in a nice way a lot of churches. Some churches let me in, but I got kicked out of 2 churches because we was getting results using Pranic Healing. And I
Hmm.
think that some of the people in charge or the leadership was kind of jealous because they didn't understand it, and the fact that we were starting to develop a following in their church because we were getting results that they couldn't get. And so they asked me, and I was an elder, and they asked me not to pray for anyone anymore, and not to anoint anyone anymore, I'm on timeout. They put me on timeout, basically.
Hmm.
And the other one just asked us not to come back.
Hmm.
So I was started off in the church thinking that that's where people go who are sick and need healing.
Hmm.
And there was one pastor that supported me and still supports me. But when he left the main church and someone else took over, they kind of like just threw me out. So what I did was I just continued going around looking for opportunities to tell people what I was doing, asking people to tell people. And I made some relationships with doctors. And
Hmm.
I would say to them, just send me one of your people. I work on them free. I just want to prove to you what I do. So it's a lot of proving myself in the very beginning. And then, in our community, particularly, there's so many different things that people do that looks like it could be not legal or just things that people are kind of shy away from. So I was
Right.
like, and I was ostracized a lot because I was the only person back then. There wasn't that many people in 1994 doing Pranic Healing, period.
Right.
Back in 1994, it was very, very small compared to now. And people didn't even know about Reiki back then.
Yeah.
So I was out there trying to sell Pranic Healing to people who never heard of Pranic Healing, never heard of the energy body, never heard of the spiritual anatomy, never heard of any of these things at all. And I was trying to sell them. So I lost a lot of my friends too. A lot of my friends just kind of thought I was bugging out, going crazy.
Mm.
Uh, my wife didn't think I was going crazy, but I was going on this spiritual path, and she was used to us operate with a little more flexibility financially. So
Hmm.
everything just fell apart, and that's when you have to lean on that experience in India. That's when I had to lean on the experience in India, knowing that if God told me this, I've been trained by Master Choa, he has to watch out for me too.
Yes.
And everybody that's involved in me doing this, taking this big leap, has to be looking
Hmm.
out for me. So I never thought that I would lose my house, but I was scared as hell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think anyone would in that position, and just to surmount all those challenges and obstacles, and I think you were the epitome of constancy of aim and effort, right? To go through all those no's and those questions and to prove yourself and to, lose your friends and to be ostracized. I mean, that takes courage beyond, the physical body, right? And you're
Right.
really trusting, yeah, your
You
soul
know,
and
I
your
was
mission.
crazy. The great that I lost it. I come from corporate doing mortgages, doing tons and tons of millions of dollars in mortgage business for people, and then I all of a sudden jump out of it and go into this woo-woo stuff. It's like, yeah, they thought I lost it. And
Right. Right.
at times I thought I was going to lose
Right, right.
it.
Well, I think that Jeff, you provide such an inspirational story because, your background is, you grew up in Harlem, right? You're a native New Yorker, and
I grew up in the public housing in Harlem. My mother raised four
exactly,
boys by herself. Yeah.
yeah. Can you speak to a little bit about that, just about that experience growing up and to being around that community and seeing the deficits, like you mentioned, about healing in that community, and now today building a whole center around that and being such a pivotal part of that community, just for our audience to kind of understand that history.
Well, I don't think that anyone, even like speaker, can't understand it. You have to kind of experience it. And I
Right.
can tell you logically, I don't think that Harlem was never as bad as people said it was.
Hmm.
When I studied NLP out in California, and I met people from Japan all over the world, I'm studying NLP, much like, Pranic Healing, people come from all over the world. And when they found out from Harlem, I was from Harlem, they were always fascinated. So every time they came to Harlem, I would literally take them out at 2 o'clock in the morning just to show them that it's nowhere near as bad as it was, and that there are a lot of great, smart people that grow up in Harlem, so they make the wrong choices. So my experience is I had to do those things that most people do if you want to stay out of trouble. I was jealous about people who had more money than me. They were doing things that may have been illegal. They had the pretty girls, the nice, all the stereotypical type stuff that happened. But the thing that kept me strong to that is number one, martial arts. I would say martial arts saved my life. If I was not involved in martial arts, I probably would have been in trouble more because I was around. I wasn't part of them. But I knew the gang leaders. I knew everybody that was nice in the neighborhood. I knew everybody that was bad in the neighborhood. I knew also. If
Mm.
you didn't know them, they didn't respect you, then you're gonna get in trouble.
And what age was this around?
14,
Okay.
15, 16, 17,
Okay.
18. So I
Yeah.
went away to college. Um, but the thing that I think about the most, I think about, being in Harlem is my mother. And the strength
Mm.
he had to raise all four of us. And I always remember the time that she was a bookkeeper at a big grocery store, a chain of grocery stores. And I remember the day that they came in. I remember I wasn't there, but I remember they came to a store and robbed the store. And
Wow.
what happened was that since she was the bookkeeper, they came to her and put a gun to her head and told her to open the safe. Now, mother couldn't open the safe. She didn't know how to open the safe. She didn't have a combination. The manager did. So the manager opened the safe, and she was fine. My brothers and I was concerned. We would not let her go out the next day to go to work or anything else. She thought she was going to get her hair done. So, we allowed her, we walked her to the hairdresser and left. And to find out, she snuck and went to work when we left. The second
Mm.
day. The store got robbed the second day also. Same thing happened. Different person, put a gun to her head, told her to open it. She said she couldn't open it. Asked the assistant manager to open it. He didn't open it. He got shot and killed. I asked my mother later on, I said, Mom, why did you do that? Why did you sneak and go to work? And
Mm.
she said to me, always touched my heart, and I live on that today. She said that, I got to take care of my boys.
Mm.
I got to take care of my boys. And so for me, what I do, what she went through, what I'm going through was nothing
Right.
compared to what she went through, what she sacrificed to make sure she took care of her boys. So I
Wow.
always respect that, always think about that, because that was a very, when she said that, it was a very powerful moment to me.
That's
I said to her then, you will never work for them again. And that's why I started my first company not too long after that called Crave Express when I was 24 years old.
24.
And I started that, and I first person I hired was my mother.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's such a powerful and moving story, Jeff. I don't even know if I could give context into words what I can feel from that. Just to for you to say that in your shoes, I mean, to be so simple and say that, your mother to say, I have to take care of my boys, it says it all. You don't need to justify asking her any more questions, but just to show, your mother's love for your family and to persevere over those circumstances, despite everything that went on. That speaks volumes. And that seems like that was like your rocket fuel, right? Your motivating journey into your 20s, into your 30s to achieve and to become successful in business, right?
Well, I would say that was my rocket fuel, but also not just my fuel, but my strength. And I felt like I couldn't go any further. I think about the fact that she literally had a gun to her head.
Right.
Could have been shot any moment, and she still went back to the job the next day. That's the part that always blows me away. I know I would have gone back the next day.
Right.
I would have gone back the next day. Most people in their right mind would have gone back the next day.
Exactly.
But she went back the next day.
She went back.
And so no matter how bad I may feel about something, or things like going right or go wrong, go back the next day, Jeff. Show up again. Just show up and keep showing up and keep showing up and keep showing up. And something sooner or later is going to happen for you. Just show up.
Yeah, and thank you for highlighting that detail. And just showing up. Because it's not about getting it perfect the first time, but through constancy of aim and effort, and keep trying. Success will come. So kind of I'm just going to transition our conversation to the next part. And now I'm going to focus on, the work that you've been doing around your community, especially in Bedford-Stuyvesant, in that Brooklyn area, and serving your community for so many years. Tell me what that's been like. And I know that you said you recently opened up your center, and now it's a nonprofit organization, and you've been training so many healers and doing so many type of service for the community. For the audience out there, from the outside looking in, what is that like, and how did that get started, and how's that going now?
That started once again when I came from India. When I came back from India is when I started the Noble Touch. And at the time, the Noble Touch was just me. And then, but I told when we were in India, I said, well, if you want me to do this, I need help. I can't do this by myself. I'm only one person. So I said, I need help. And then there was a health fair at City College in New York, City University of New York, City College. And someone told me about it. I said, well, I want to go, but I have no other healers but me. So then what I did, I get in trouble. But what I did is I taught the Angels of Transformation, some of them that you saw dance at the Heart Retreat.
Yes.
I taught some of them just how to do nothing more but speak, just speak. So we all went to City College that weekend. And they were just speaking. I was doing everything else. They were just doing the speaking. And speaking, as you know, speaking itself is healing. Creates the environment for the body to heal. So they were doing speaking. And from that point on, someone else was having a health fair. Someone else was having a health fair. And before you know it, we became very well known in the community for doing this healing, doing health fairs, although they didn't understand what we were doing. And a lot of them didn't really want to come back again. They just wanted to have an experience that first time. So although we were spinning our wheels a lot, we weren't getting a lot of return for our investment as far as time is concerned. We were still getting the word out there, getting the word out there. And now we're to the point that if someone sees our logo, they know it's us. It feels good to walk down the street and someone said, oh, I knew that logo, so I came over to find out what this was. Oh, you got a center now? But that journey has been hard. It's been a constant building of people. My first training I did at NLP, Pranic Healing, Master Glenn Mendoza came in and he taught. We had about 26 people there, and we did the first training in Pranic Healing. Master Glenn Mendoza also came with me to Harlem Hospital. We did our first training in a hospital. So, working in a hospital now still with me as healers, and just continue to get out there and do things and do it. And sooner or later you get someone's attention. As long as you're doing everything with integrity and with the right heart, I believe that to be a good healer, you have to have the heart to serve and the spirit of a warrior. That's why I tell all my students, you have to have the heart to serve, the spirit of a warrior, and you have to sometimes love people beyond their ability to love themselves.
Wow. That I think that's the first time I heard that. Can you say that again, just so I can process that again? Because that was very powerful.
It's part of what I said.
The last part. I think
Well,
sometimes,
you have to love people beyond their ability to love themselves.
wow,
Because a lot of
that,
us don't love ourselves.
hmm
There's a lack of self-love in this world. That's why people allow themselves to suffer and everything else. So I think that sometimes people may not want to change, or they may feel they don't want to change, but you gotta love them enough, give them enough love, energy, enough compassion, enough heart, enough love and kindness that makes them want to open up. Because the soul wants to open up. It's their consciousness that's kind of blocking it. Because it's already been conditioned to think and feel a certain way. And you introduce something that's going to take them off that safety of being the same way they've been all their life, then
right.
it's threatening to them. They don't feel safe anymore because now they got to be this other person, and they don't know how to be that other person. So they've never been that other person. They've never reached inside and saw the divinity in themselves, the I am in themselves. They've never seen it's been hidden by past experiences and past conditioning.
Excellent. I think you put that, right in the bullseye, Jeff. I think that a lot of people, when they identify as the body, the emotions or the thoughts, we get tangled up like drawstring cords, or, there's so many different sides to it. And you feel comfortable when you're entangled, right? Because you've been entangled for so long and you've been congested for so long. You think that this is the normal, but
That is right.
right. But you, at the end of the day, you are, what Pranic Healing subscribes to. You are the soul, and the soul has a different direction than what your conscious mind is thinking of. And of course, for you, in your experience, that says it all. And to be able to have the courage, the open mindedness, to take that step forward and to continue stepping forward into the path that is right for you. I think that it is also hard, but it's also not hard because it feels so natural, right? And it was natural for you in your experience in getting through all that. So that's amazing. I just want to quickly touch upon NLP because I know I personally know a little bit about NLP, but I try to focus this podcast on pranic healing. But I know it is another big piece in what you do in your work at your center and in Noble Touch. So for the layperson out there on the street, what is NLP and how do you use it at your center?
I'm going to give you the most basic definition I can give you of NLP.
Sure.
And that is NLP is the way the pictures you make inside your head and things you say to yourself affects your nervous system and causes you to act or react a certain way. That's the simplest one I can give you. If I gave it to you metaphorically, I would say that the outside world is the keyboard. So you type on the keyboard, there's a message that goes in the CPU, right?
Yes.
Okay, but the outside world doesn't really control you. It's how you respond to what happens in the outside world that makes a difference. So it goes into your data bank and says, okay, do I have a program that matches what happened in the outside world? Like, I'm class clown, right? So you go in, so I go on my database and say, oh, is there something that matched the fact that I'm supposed to be a class clown? I'm supposed to fail. I was told by my high school teachers and everybody else I was going to fail. I would never go to college. All those things I was told. But it didn't match what I thought. I thought I always had a chance. So it didn't create the behaviors that would have created a different Jeff. Because I had believed that and would have responded to that. I may have started hanging out in the streets more. I may have started drinking or smoking because I felt I didn't have a way out. I felt that I was a victim. You can't be victorious and have a victim mentality at the same time. So NLP helped me to reprogram all those things that were bothering me, that were holding me back or trying to hold me back even before I got to Pranic Healing. I knew about positive thinking, I knew about visualization, I knew all that stuff. But NLP took it to a whole nother level. It was literally the software for your brain. So when I use it with Pranic Healing, it just depends on a particular case. We have a video, we were on WABC recently for a couple of months now, and there's a woman who had multiple sclerosis.
Yes,
and
I saw that video.
Oh, you saw the video?
Yes, I did.
So there's a perfect example of when we used Pranic Healing for 6 months, then we switched to NLP to start finding out, okay, what caused this MS? What could be the emotional causes? People talk about mental health. Not that I don't believe in mental health, I call it emotional health. Because if your emotions are healthy, you don't have to worry about mental health or physical illness a lot of times if your emotions are healthy. So I call it emotional health instead of mental health. And so what we did is after we got finished doing Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Now we can finish. We can finish with Pranic Healing. At about the 6th month, I said, okay, now let's do something I call releasing the past. And in releasing the past, they go through and write down every emotion they can remember they've ever had. And then one by one, we go back to disconnect each of those emotions. And when you add those two together, as you saw the video, she's not been on anything in about, 7 years now? And that's just one case. We have lots of cases. We have people that have pancreatic cancer, the same thing. If there's a mental aspect of any type of illness, I can use Pranic Healing or I can use NLP to help you with it. It depends what it is. And it's all time-based. So you realize when I say time-based, what I mean by that, Doc, is if experience happened to you when you were 5 years old, right? This significant emotional experience, this imprint experience that traumatized you when you were 5 years old, right? If you go to the age of 4, the event has not happened yet, right? Because it happened when you were 5 years old. So if you collapse time quantumly at that time, the feelings disappear. The feelings can disappear just that easily and that quickly. So a lot of times when people go to psychologists for, and there's a person I did about 4 sessions with Pranic Healing, and then I did NLP once again. And a lot of times I use Pranic Healing after I do NLP just to clear everything out. Sometimes I do it first to soften things up. So there's no rhyme or reason that what comes to me through prayer and through invocation will determine what I use. But I use the combination all the time, because once you clear something mentally, the chakras begin to rebalance automatically. I've worked with people with anxiety. I worked with the NLP. I measured it with Pranic Healing. The chakras have changed. Just that traumas, I mean, really bad traumatic experiences, whether it's been...
I think you call it FAST, right? Is that correct? Is that the acronym, FAST?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Where you get all this information from?
I do my research. So it's FAST, right? The acronym?
Yeah.
Yes. What does that mean for the audience?
Anxiety, stress, and trauma.
Fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma. Wow. And as we know, that's ubiquitous out there in everyday life, right? I don't think not one day does not one person experience a little bit of all of that. And it sounds like your work, Pranic Healing being the foundation of all and being, very flexible in its modality, allowed you the opportunity to use NLP, which has kind of furthered your results in that example, in that case study with that woman with multiple sclerosis, which is a very significant autoimmune condition that affects the nervous system. And it sounded like she had for many years, on all types of medications. And it was through your work and, your team at the center that really helped transform her life. And she took Pranic Healing, correct, too?
She's now a Pranic Healing practitioner, yes.
Yeah.
And she's an advanced practitioner. I think she took psychotherapy also.
Wow.
And she's a dancer.
And she's a dancer. Wow. That's incredible. Incredible.
On at a Heartache, at the review, the Heartache retreat, she dances with them.
Oh, that was her. Wow.
No, she dances with them. That was not her, but she dances with them.
Oh, she dances with them. Okay.
Right.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. So for the audience, yes. For the audience, we were at the New Jersey Arhatic retreat, and then, there was a performance for Mahasamadhi, and it was from Jeff's Center, a couple of the members, and they were doing a very eloquent, very beautiful dance, a very beautiful rendition, and I have to give praise because I was just speechless at how they flowed and moved, because I'm not a great dancer by any stretch of the means. So that kind of inspired me to move my physical body in that way as well. But yeah, that's amazing to know that she, even took up to Arhatic and then she's dancing with them, right? What a transformation. So, all right. So to kind of close, Jeff, I know that we spoke about, your history and, your spiritual journey until, doing so many great things for your community in Brooklyn and with your center and with all your members. I think that you are fulfilling your mission, your calling with, your spiritual teachers and God. And I have to commend, all the courage and strength that you've developed to get this far. And it's very inspiring for me, and I'm sure to a lot of the audience. And to kind of close this podcast, if you were to give advice for someone random off the street, just based on your experience, your spiritual journey, your journey in life, and going through all the things that you've been through, what is one piece of advice you would give this person to help them improve their life?
Before I give that piece of advice, I like to say that we are not limited to Brooklyn. We've done work in 6 continents.
Yes, except Antarctica.
Except you did some research.
I did. I came prepared.
That is the only continent we've not done work on. So I would tell someone that you are here for a reason. You can code it and load it to just let your gifts expand and explode into the universe. That there's someone out there that Jeff, Dr. Jason, Master Marilyn, or Master Glenn, they can't reach. They're waiting for you. You are the answer to someone's prayer. That you are the answer to someone's prayer. And the only way you're gonna be able to help them is for you to get out your own way and let God show you off. Because you were born an original, so don't die a copy.
Wow. You were born as an original and don't die as a copy. Beautiful. I think you said a couple of quotes today that I'm definitely going to write down and keep for future reference because they were so spectacular. But yeah, that's amazing. So if you can repeat that again, you were born to be a prayer.
Let's think about it this way. There's no one else like you for you. It's not being anyone after you. There's not be anything like you. Your fingerprints will never be duplicated. You are a unique creation. You're a unique example of God's creation. So you are born an original. There is no other you. Yeah. But some of us live our lives trying to copy what other people want us to be, or we think we should be, instead of being ourselves. So that's why I say you were born an original. Don't die a copy. The Noble Touch theme last year was having audacious authenticity. Knowing what your soul wants for you, what that desire is, and stepping out on that faith, regardless of what anyone says, do, or how they're trying to stop you. Because I ran into all that. Just keep moving forward, knowing that you're not alone. That you're not alone. You tap into that I am in yourself, and you know that you're not the body, you're not the mind, you're not the body, you're not your emotions, you're not even the mind. That you are the soul, that you're a spiritual being of divine intelligence, divine power, divine love. Come on. You're connected to God, you're one with God, you're one with all. Stop playing.
Well, that's excellent. I think you recapped that very well, Jeff. So again, from a soul that was labeled a class clown to now a soul that has received the White House Lifetime Achievement Award, I, the soul, recognize the divinity in you and the spiritual teacher that you have been, Jeff, for so many, amazing souls in your community and around the world in 6 continents. And maybe one day we'll find a soul in Antarctica so we can say all 7 for you.
One more thing. I don't want you to keep me out of my titles. I was class clown. Okay. And least likely to succeed.
Really?
So I don't want you to cheat me out any of my titles. I embrace both of them.
All right. Okay.
My godfather once told me the only reason why I succeeded was I was too dumb to know I was supposed to fail.
Well, how you like that? How you like that?
I love it.
Yes.
Imagine if everybody knew that it was too dumb to fail. Right. It'd be a whole different world.
Yes. And look at where we're at now. So I mean, I think this is one of the I had really fun. This is one of the most amazing conversations I've had with any pranic healer, and I think that your journey and your experience speaks volumes. So thank you so much for your time, Jeff.
You.
And
thank you for inviting me.
And I will leave all of your information for the audience too in the description so that if anyone has questions for you or wants a consultation or wants to get in touch, I know that you have a lot of different services and things like that. So I'll leave that down below. All right. So Atma Namaste, everyone. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you in the next episode.
Thank you, family. Thank you.
Thank you.